2 games, 2 wins, and the Carolina Hurricanes are rolling going into their State Fair road trip. After a chaotic Saturday that saw them lose, but win a challenge, and then they take the win. Everything's coming up Millhouse for the Hurricanes, and the guy in the center of it all is Seth Jarvis.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the Everydayer for making this your first listen of the day. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking everything about your Carolina Hurricanes. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I'm the credentialed Carolina Hurricanes beat writer over at the Hockey Writers, also the co-host of the Surge Cast, which is a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. On the Monday show of the pod, we get to kind of go over and give my thoughts on the Hurricanes win on Saturday night in overtime against the Philadelphia Flyers. Basically, just talking about how Seth Jarvis is right now the definition of clutch for the Carolina Hurricanes and why his early success and impact will be huge for the Canes this season. Also going to talk about why the Hurricanes' depth really came in strong for the Hurricanes and why, the fact that you have 13 guys already having points is big for this team. And then later on, we get to hear from Seth Jarvis himself in the postgame following the win on Saturday night. But before we jump into all of that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Now, the Hurricanes on Saturday night, Margaritaville Night, and, very cool limited edition T-shirts. Stormy's in a Hawaiian shirt and some swim trunks, so, very unique style for him on that night. And it was a wild game, to say the least, for the Carolina Hurricanes. And in the fact that you look at how it was a lot of the depth scoring that got the Hurricanes to where they were at and what they really needed to win this game, because you can just tell that there was just some, I want to say that it was a little off for the most part. And for the fact that, they were down 1-0 very late in the first period after having 3 power plays, nothing to go home, pretty much dominated for the most part. And they, very under 30 seconds left, Owen Tippett scores a power play goal, not the greatest. 3 goals in the second period. Of course, it's Taylor Hall, Jordan Stahl at the back end of that to give the Hurricanes their first lead of the game. Of course, Logan Stankovic scored his first. But third period, Travis Sanheim scores, makes it 3-3, 4 minutes left. And then after a absolutely wild overtime where the Flyers do score, but then it was deemed a goalie interference, which was the most blatant goalie interference. The fact that he was actually hitting Freddie Anderson. Hurricanes are able to negate the goal, having to bring the Flyers back on the ice. And then Seth Jarvis, second game in a row, game winner in overtime after some great passing from Shane Gostisbehere and Sebastian Aho. But the thing that's the most important for the fact that the Carolina Hurricanes win once again, you start the season 2-0. And that's what you needed. Before going on the State Fair road trip, you had to start the season 2-0. You had to get those first 2 games out of the way in the Metro because, and you guys heard me say it last year, Metro wins mean so much more if you have to tier their wins. Metro, Eastern Conference, rest of the league. You have to win all your metropolitan games. You got to get those division wins out of the way, especially this early on before you go out west. It's very much needed. That's what the Hurricanes did. And the fact that Seth Jarvis, already 2 game winners to start the season. And this is the crazy part, too. This is from Walt Ruff. Seth Jarvis is the first player in Canes Whalers franchise history to score the game-winning goal in each of the team's first 2 games of the season. Yes, that is the list. Guys score 2 game winners in the first 2 games. Seth Jarvis, end of list. That is how clutch he's been so far. He gets the 4-3 goal to help lead the Hurricanes to the 6-3 win over the Devils. And then, lo and behold, on Saturday night, scores the 4-3 game-winning goal in overtime to beat the Flyers. So somehow 4-3 is very promising for Seth Jarvis. And, of course, as always, huge from the Canes stat brand on X, really great account to follow. The Carolina Hurricanes are now 73, 5-6 in the regular season when Seth Jarvis scores a goal. So they are 73 out of 84 games when Seth Jarvis scores a goal, they get a win. That is a winning percentage of 86.9. Yeah, 86.9% were the Carolina Hurricanes. If Seth Jarvis scores a goal in a regular season game, they win it. 73 out of 84. That is nuts. 5 regulation losses and 6 overtime/shootout losses. That's it. 11 combined losses out of 84 games, and 73 of them end up in wins for almost 87%. That is just how much of a factor Seth Jarvis is for the Carolina Hurricanes when he scores a goal in regulation. That happens. And it's just something about where he is at right now for the Carolina Hurricanes because, you hear me talk about it following the NHL Faceoff docuseries with his episode. And the fact that he will drive to the ends of the earth to bring a cup to Carolina, and he wants to go down as one of the greatest Hurricanes ever to play. That says a lot for the fact that he's teammates with the guy in Sebastian Aho, who holds a lot of records already and is on pace to probably pass Eric Stahl for a lot of these records. That's just relocation only. Yes, Ron Francis does hold the most points and all that stuff, but that's combined with his Whaler days. If we're just talking strip Carolina Hurricanes since 1997, Sebastian Aho is on his way to having a lot of records for the Hurricanes. However, Seth Jarvis is on his way to have a lot of those as well. And the fact that he's already got 3 goals this season already is already putting him on a good pace to have a spectacular season because overall he's got 2 game winners. He's already got an OT winner. And his shooting percentage right now is 37.5%. He has 8 shots on goal out of 13, and 3 of them have gone in. His average time on ice is already over 21 minutes. That is by far the most ever in his career. Oh, and he already tied his game-winning goals number from last season. 73 games last year, 2 game-winning goals. He's already tied it in 2 games. And he has an overtime winner. He had no overtime winners last year. The last time he had one was back in 23-24, and then the other one, 21-22. He has one of them already. How about the fact that he's already got 3 goals? Already a +1. And for his career, 306 games. How about 99 goals, 117 assists, 216 points, a +57, 22 power play goals, 50 power play points, 8 shorthanded goals, 17 game winners, 3 overtime winners. Already 306 games in. He's already 1 goal away from 100. If he does it against the Sharks, that's 3 straight games with a goal, and he'll have 100 goals in 307 games. That's pretty dang impressive for a guy who's only 23 and in his 5th season. This is his 5th season in the NHL, already hitting 100 goals. And the fact that he's done that with back-to-back 30-plus goal seasons already. It speaks to how much of a catalyst Seth Jarvis is going to be. And yes, Sebastian Aho is going to probably go down as one of the greatest Hurricanes as well. But Seth Jarvis is really putting himself into a spot where he could be that guy as well. He's already training to superstar status, but the fact that he's already gotten 2 game winners this season to match last year's total in 2 games is crazy. And the thing too is he leads the team in goals with 3, game winners with 2, and he is the lone overtime winner because, of course, it's only 2 games. But that says a lot. And he's among 4 guys who already have 3 points for the Carolina Hurricanes. And the thing is, 13 of the 18 players who have already skated for the Canes have at least a point. That means the Hurricanes' depth is pretty dang good, all things considered. So let's talk about the Hurricanes' depth. We'll do that here in a second on a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you're off organizing your finances and you've been putting that off, Monarch is for you. Monarch does all the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever really touching a spreadsheet. You can identify that you aren't saving as much as you thought because Monarch helps you notice the inefficient investment allocations and discover forgotten 401ks from past jobs. So don't let the financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONNHL. Welcome back to a segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. Now, we talk about Seth Jarvis and his already instant impact for the Carolina Hurricanes and the fact that they're going to get 2-game winners in the first 2 games, but we also got to talk about the Carolina Hurricanes' depth because that's one of the key things is the Hurricanes need scoring, and if they get the scoring, everyone's got to contribute, and right now the Hurricanes have definitely done that. How about Jordan Staal? He tallied his first goal of the 25-26 season on Saturday against the Flyers and became the 5th active skater to score in at least 20 seasons, according to Walt Ruff. The other players, Sidney Crosby, 21 seasons, Brent Burns, 21 seasons, Alex Ovechkin and Corey Perry with 20 seasons as well. So the captain, at least a goal in 20 seasons. Love to see that from the captain. And then when asked about the depth overall, to Rod Brind'Amour, this is of course with the post game, the fact that, he wasn't happy with somehow how a couple of the guys played, but there was a couple of guys he really liked. Eric Robinson, Taylor Hall, and specifically with Robinson. Robbie's been sensational. Really, I've got to find more ice time for those guys. And that really says a lot for the fact of how impactful Taylor Hall and Eric Robinson and a few other Carolina Hurricanes have been. Because how about this? I said Seth Jarvis is one of 4 guys with 3 points. The other players, Taylor Hall, 2 goals and assists, Shane Gostisbehere, 3 assists, and Sebastian Aho with 3 assists. Now, the other guys, we have 13 players on the Hurricanes that have at least a point. Keandre Miller, Robinson, Jordan Martinook, and Alexander Nikishin all have, and Jackson Blake all have 2 points. Jordan Staal, Logan Stankoven, William Carey, and Jesperi Kotkaniemi all have at least a point. Now, with Martinook, Nikishin, and Blake, all of their points, the 2 that they have are assists. Keandre Miller's 2 points, all goals. And then Aho and Gostisbehere, all those are 3 assists. And, of course, Seth Jarvis with his 3 goals. Staal and Stankoven, a goal each. Carey and Kotkaniemi with an assist each. The only guys that haven't put a point up yet, Slavin, Ehlers, Chatfield, Walker, and Svechnikov. Now, this is the interesting part, too. When you look at the plus-minus already for the Hurricanes in 2 games, how about Shane Gostisbehere? A +5 already for the Canes. That leads the team. The Jordans, Staal and Martinook with Alexander Nikishin with a +3, Carrier, Robinson, Miller, and Kotkaniemi all at +2. That says a lot, too, when you look at the depth of the Hurricanes. We're not even talking about just scoring. For just the impact of being a positive on the ice. The third pairing, which a lot of people had concerns about with Gostisbehere and Nikishin, they're combined +8 already for the Hurricanes, and the fact that Gostisbehere leads the entire team with +5. And it's also really not surprising the Jordans have a +3 each to lead the forward core. There are a few minuses. Slavin's a -1 along with Ehlers, Stankoven, and Blake. The only not -1 or positive, Sean Walker is a -3. But, it's 2 games in. It's not that serious. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. The crazy part is power play has been kind of okay for the Hurricanes. Not the greatest of it. It's like I said, it's been 2 games. Last night they did go 0-for-4. Keandre Miller has the only power play goal. But overall, though, you've got to like what you're seeing from the team. The fact that you have 13 of 18 players already have at least a point, and you have 4 guys with 3. Like I said, that's Jarvis, Goshesbear, Aho, and Taylor Hall. 2 of your top line guys already have 3 points. You have Taylor Hall, who's playing on the 4th line, scored the first goal of the entire season for the Hurricanes and got one against Philadelphia, which is a very clutch one. He's already up to 3 points with 2 goals. And like I said, you got Marnock, Robinson, Miller, Nikishin, and Blake all with 2. Marnock's a 3rd line guy. Eric Robinson's a 4th line guy. Miller and Nikishin are the newest defensemen to the team. Jackson Blake, 2nd year, already has 2 points in 2 games for him as well. Like I said, that says a lot for the fact that, even with the fact that, you got Svechnikov who hasn't gotten a point yet, Ehlers who hasn't gotten a point yet, but they are still contributing in their own rights. Maybe not on the score sheet, but they're still doing something. But 13 of 18 guys, 10 different players got a point on Saturday night against Philadelphia. And honestly, it was honestly the depth that really helped the Hurricanes win that game. Because like I said, you get a goal from Hall and Jordan Stahl to kind of help you get into a spot where you could take the lead in the second period. And of course, you get it back tied up in the third. Almost lost it in overtime. You get the goal taken off the board, but then it's one of the big boys, Seth Jarvis, with Aho and Goshesbear getting the game winner. So your depth kept you in that game big time. And then when you needed your star players to star out, they did exactly that. So I think it's the fact this is what the Hurricanes are really good for and what they're known for, too, is the depth of this team. And I think this is probably the deepest team the Hurricanes have had, because Mark Jankowski, who was a big contributor last year after coming over from Nashville, hasn't played a game yet, because the Hurricanes are kind of doing pretty decent, all things considered. So they got 2 wins. It was a close game until the third period against the Devils when you win 6-3, and you had to win in overtime against the Flyers, because it's always the Flyers for some reason. Always want to make these games interesting, but you win it in overtime. Inch or a mile, it wins a win, but that's where the Hurricanes are at right now. And you have Jankowski as your healthy extra, and you're getting contributions from everyone. 3rd line guys are scoring. 4th line guys are scoring. You got Blake and Stankoven at least have 3 points in the first 2 games combined, and Blake's got 2 assists. Now you're still waiting for Andrei Svechnikov to score, but it's he's still kind of it's the first 2 games. There's nothing really to be worried about. Yeah, Sebastian Aho is a scorer, but he's got 3 apples. You'll be happy with that. Seth Jarvis, like I said, he's got 3 goals. 2 of them are game winners, and 1 of them is in overtime. He's off to a hot start already to start the season in his 5th year. So, like I said, you get the big guys that are scoring, but it's the huge depth. Like the bottom 6 have been scoring, and they've been putting up points as well, and you'll gladly take that. So that's the thing that the Hurricanes are really going to have to lean on this year is, if your top line's still kind of a work in progress, as Seth Jarvis puts it, which we'll hear more about in segment 3, you got to have your depth there to kind of back you up. And right now, that's what the Hurricanes had on Saturday night. The depth backed them up, kept them in the game, and then the star players, shine when they really needed it. So that's where you're kind of at right now for the Carolina Hurricanes. That's why when you hear me do my season preview of just the Metropolitan Division, there's a lot of teams in the Metro that aren't really deep on the depth. Like there's bottom 6s that make you kind of scratch your head and be like, is this going to do something? Is there top 9s that are maybe going to be okay? But when you look at the Carolina Hurricanes, you're kind of like, this is a pretty decent team. This is a really good depth team, all things considered. Like the 4th line, it could be a 3rd liner, on a bunch of teams. Or there's some guys on the roster that could be in the top 9 or a top 6, depending on who you're with. So it's not bad, all things considered, where you're at the Carolina Hurricanes, that your 4th line is contributing really well. That could be a top 9 on any other roster. And the fact that even your 3rd line, with a line that's mainly known for being a shutdown group, are putting points up as well. And you're getting your youngsters. Blake and Stankoven are pretty young guys. They're already contributing. And you're seeing your top line still trying to kind of figure it out. But all things considered, the Carolina Hurricanes' depth has been pretty good, and they're kind of keeping them in these games, and the fact that they're, holding it down and giving your team an opportunity to win games, and that's what they did on Saturday night with an OT winner from Seth Jarvis. Speaking of Jarvis, Well, let's hear what he said in the post game following the win on Saturday night. So stick around. We'll react to what he said here in a second on a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It makes football even more exciting to watch when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. Like I said, we talked about Seth Jarvis in segment 1, a little bit in segment 2, but now we get to hear from the guy himself following the game on Saturday night in the postgame when he talked to media. So without further ado, let's listen and react to Seth Jarvis right now.
Obviously, the big thing is how do you turn the emotions back on after the goal gets waved off and you gotta get back out there?
Well, we know we get a second chance, and that doesn't happen often. So I think everyone, right when we saw the replay, kind of thought that's what was going to happen. So we just focused back in, try to finish up the game strong, and thankfully we scored.
Back and forth affair all night long. What you make of the team's 64-ish minutes as a whole?
We had our spots. I think Jordo's line played really well. I think KK, Stank, their lines were good. Our line was lacking a little bit, and I think that's what kind of brought them back in the game. We got to be able to close them out. But I mean, it's a work in progress, only second game of the year, but showed a lot of resilience, which is really good for our group.
Do you think it's just part of finding chemistry with that new line mate mostly, or what do you attribute that to?
Yeah, I mean, finding chemistry, getting back into the swing of things. I think we can all play better. We all know that. We're all hungry to get better, and it's just a matter of time before it all starts clicking and it really takes off.
You've talked a lot about trying not to get down on yourself. Obviously, you guys are out there for that tying goal again. Do you just deep breath, kind of move forward?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you got to learn from your mistakes again. I hate to have to keep saying that, but yeah, just clean it up and not let that stuff happen, because that game probably should have went to overtime. We should have won regulation, but like I said last game, I got a chance to redeem myself, and I did.
You talked about State Fair road trip up next. You guys have done really well on that trip through the years. What's the key to that?
Just be ready. I mean, it's a long time on the road. I think everyone's excited to get on the road. Haven't been on in a while, so yeah, just enjoy it. But know where it's a business trip, and it's gonna be a long 2 weeks. But I think we're ready for it.
You talk about having things still to build on, but 3 goals in 2 games is got to be a really good positive step. You know that there's more to go.
Yeah, the scoring's always nice. It's nice that they're going in right now. But yeah, just building off my overall game, there's steps I need to take. The goals will come, and I know sometimes I won't score, but I'll play a better game than I did tonight. And that's the big focus right now for me is making sure I'm putting my best foot forward every night.
Big thank you to Seth Jarvis and the Carolina Hurricanes, as always, for letting us be able to use that and put it in the shows for you guys to hear if you did miss it. But it's good to hear from Seth Jarvis for the fact that it's like, it's trying to get back locked in when you thought you lost the game. You get the goal reversed, and now you get to go and try to win it yourself. And they did. And it's just, trying to find kind of snap back into that mindset of like, okay, now it's time to go. Let's get this second chance and make it work. And he even said it too, is the fact that it wasn't the greatest game from him or his top line. It's still a work in progress, but that's the goal, is for them to just keep getting a little bit better. And, and he even said it too when asked by Ryan Henkel of, yeah, the goals are great. He scored 3 goals in 2 games, but he knows that there's going to be nights where he's not going to score, and his overall game needs to be better. And that's what he's going to focus on. So I love the fact that even with him scoring, Seth is like, yeah, the goals are great, but if I'm not, but the rest of my game has got to be better than what it was on Saturday night. And that's what he said. He's like, I'm hoping the next night it's a lot better than it was Saturday. And I love the fact that Seth Jarvis doesn't really rest on his laurels or the moral victories of, hey, I scored a goal. That's great. And it's like, okay, yeah, cool. But the rest of my game wasn't great. And he always wants to get better. And I think it's that mentality of what Seth has that will probably make him one of the greatest Carolina Hurricanes, is because that he strives to get better every single day. Like I said, he's 23 years old, already in his 5th season, and he's not content with where he's at. He wants to keep growing, and he knows that it's basically, it was the second line, third line. Those guys were kind of stepping up very huge, even KK, and then were stepping up when they need to. So it's the fact that he loves how resilient the team is, because that's what's so good about them. And I agree, is the fact that it's the resiliency of these Hurricanes that makes them, they're never really out of a game. Rather, if they're down 1 goal or 2 goals, and they, have to force it into overtime or try to win it in overtime, you never really sense there's ever a quit or that they're just got to roll over. Like you'll see some games where it's, they get goalied or something happens, but they always try to fight back in. And I think that's what you saw from the Hurricanes, that, they were down very late after the first period, scored 3 in the second. And then, unfortunately, game tied back up, but they won in overtime. And Seth said it too. It's like that game, he knows they should have put the Flyers out in the regulation. That game should never even went to overtime. Like the fact that Philadelphia scored with 4 minutes left, it's kind of like, dang. It's like you guys got your first lead, you lose it, and then you go into overtime. You almost thought you lost it in overtime. You thought you only got 1 point, but in the end you got the second one. But it says a lot too when it's like, they won the game, but it's kind of like, should have really put that team away. I think the Flyers are going to be an okay team. Are they going to be making the playoffs? No. But Seth and the Canes know it's like, okay, we can't just meddle around and kind of, let these teams back in. It's like once you get a lead, you have to get the second goal to give yourself a little bit of room, or just shut them down and put these things away. Don't give them the opportunities. So I think that's something the Hurricanes really have to do. And this is not really to harp on the goaltending, especially Freddie Anderson, but in 2 games, he does have 2 wins. He has a 2.89 goals against, a save percentage of .867. Now, granted, he's only seen 45 shots in the last 2 games. 22 of them came on the opening night Thursday game. So he only saw another 23 on Saturday, so not a lot. But am I concerned? No. Is this something to keep an eye on? Yeah. Because a save percentage in the 860s, almost 870 is not the greatest. Yeah, the goals against is a sub 3, but it's still it's a little concerning. Not to where it's like, high alert type of stuff, but something that could be like, not really liking it, but it's 2 games. It's not the worst thing in the world. The fact the Hurricanes have only given up 6 goals in 2 games, but it's kind of like, hope it gets cleaned up a little bit more, because like I said, there's no reason why the Saturday game should have gone to overtime. And Seth recognizes that. And even Rod said it too, that it's just, there was a lot of parts of the game that he wasn't really happy of. And there were some guys that he kind of wished played a little bit better. Of course, he didn't go into details because that's not Rod Brind'Amour, but you could definitely tell that it was one of those games that was like, man, you should have capitalized in the first period to score a goal, but you really should have put the Flyers away in the 3rd period at least, to not have to go to overtime and then rely on a challenge to keep you in the game to get that opportunity to score the goal to win in overtime. But you know what, though? A win's a win. You're going to the State Fair road trip, 2-0, 4 out of a possible 4. You got San Jose on Tuesday. You got Anaheim Thursday, and then the real test starts following those 2. But you can't overlook those games. Of course, during the week, we'll preview the San Jose game, the Anaheim game as we go through. We'll also recap them too. But I know there's a big test at the back end of the road trip, but you got to take care of business in California on Tuesday and Thursday. But hey, you know what? As of right now, on Monday, the Hurricanes are 2-0. Seth Jarvis with 2 game winners, 4 out of 4 points. 13 out of 18 guys have gotten at least a point. So we're trending in the right direction of the Carolina Hurricanes. You got the first 2 games at home out of the way. You won 31 games at Lenovo Center last year. You're already up to 2. Keep building on that. A sub 500 record on the road last year. Now it's time to start 1-0 and get a winning record on the road starting on Tuesday night against the Sharks. But of course, we'll preview that for the Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. But until then, this is the end of the Monday episode of Hurricanes. Thank you for taking your first listen. Your second listen, go check out the Locked On NHL Game Night show. Every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. If you want to keep up with me, I'm a one true Zach on X. The podcast is _Hurricanes. I'm also on Blue Sky, the Zachary Martin. Where if you click the link tree in my bio, you can find all of my written content at thehockeyriders.com. I've been putting out a lot of stuff recently, doing some game previews now for the season, doing some player features, a whole bunch of stuff. So make sure to go check that out at thehockeyriders.com. If you want to check out my other podcasts, it's the Surgecast on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. For Locked On Hurricanes, subscribe and follow on all podcast platforms you listen to: Spotify, Google, Apple, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen. Leave a 5-star rating and review because I might just read it on the show. For YouTube, well, it's Locked On Hurricanes. Subscribe, hit the bell notification so you don't miss the show. Hit the thumbs up to let me know if you like the show as well. Share with other Caniacs to become everydayers just like you. But I hope everyone enjoyed the Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Enjoy your Monday, and until next time, as always, let's go Canes.